Hello and welcome to the UnBAIS podcast, straight from your Miss Yoakum's broadcasting room, quote unquote. I'm Pierre.
And I'm Andrew.
And we will present to you the UnBAIS podcast, Utica National Basketball Association for International Studies. Let's get started.
All right, so this week in the NBA, we have some exciting stuff going on. We have Paul George's debut with the Clippers coming back from injury. We have Carmelo Anthony being signed to the Trailblazers and his debut against the Pelicans. We're going to get into all of that, especially Lakers versus Atlanta. But what we really want to talk about first is the Pistons Preview, just how their season's been going, because where we're based out of in Michigan, all we talk about is the Pistons and how they're really, really good. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, they're amazing. So pretty much
your thoughts?
Yeah, we're talking about the Pistons because Miss Yoakum's storage room is like in southeast Michigan, and we're like a couple miles north of Detroit. So like that's our hometown. So we're gonna talk about how garbage the Pistons are for a second. So let's just say that they haven't been this bad since 2014. They're starting off 4-8. They haven't won a game, I think, in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Which they have a game Wednesday, the 20th, I believe, against the Bulls, which should be an easy win. Although the Bulls are on a very nice tear.
Yeah, but you see, the thing with the Pistons is we always say that this should be an easy win, and then they end up losing. So like we're just gonna have to like wait and see. But like it's no fault of the team really, because like Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose have been out for the majority of the season. But even in their debuts, they didn't do that well.
Yeah, well, we just gotta gel together with our starters going back in the lineup. Drummond hasn't done too bad in
it's probably his best season,
game, right?
Yeah.
And especially with his him being able to get shots up at the line, which is really big. But what I really want to see out of this Pistons team is D Rose taking control of the point guard position and basically running our offense. Because before we had Ish Smith and Reggie Jackson, so we weren't very strong at the point guard position. But we're 4-8, and we picked up a few new players. Pierre, would tell us about them?
Well, I mean, really one really has made the biggest impact, which is Tony Snell. So he's the starting small forward now, and he's leading the league in 3-point percentage for small forwards. And really, you wouldn't expect that looking at like how we played with the Bucks. He was more like a defensive anchor. And then, but the real new player that I would like to address is Tim Frazier, because I think he's gonna come up as most improved player of the year. Absolutely. He's just too good. Like, if you're 6 foot and you're balling out that hard, like 4 points a game, I swear to God, dude, he's actually amazing. Like, 100%. You'd wonder why Reggie Jackson didn't get injured earlier so we could play Tim Frazier. What do you think?
Absolutely. I would 100% agree. Tim Frazier is underrated, to say the least.
Yes.
But with the addition of Tim Frazier, we also have Thon Maker, who we picked up from the Bucks, and Christian Wood, who we also picked up from the Bucks. So we had a nice little summer with the Bucks trading. We brought up Christian Wood from the G League. He's actually been doing pretty good, getting you know what they say, board man gets paid.
Yeah.
So
he can also shoot, which is huge for a big man.
Which we need around the Pistons, because we're not a very 3-point heavy team. Which great addition with Tony Snell, and Luke Kennard's actually been playing a lot better in this season. I think because he's had to step up more because of the lack of leadership, per se, in the roster lineup. So I think Drummond and Kennard are working really hard this season, and when we get our starters back, we'll do really well.
Yeah. I think Kennard has gotten more confident than in like recent years. Now he's out of the rookie slump, so like now you can see him handling the ball more. He puts a couple moves together, hits step backs. He's been like a lot better than recent years than just being a catch and shoot.
Right.
But like, you brought up Thon Maker. We did like trade for him a while ago, and we gave up some good pieces for that. But the thing is, like, he's definitely not what we expected.
Absolutely no. When he was with the Bucks, he shot a lot more. But I feel like he's timid now, and he's not the 7-footer we thought he was, to say the least.
Right. So I mean, that's enough with the Pistons. I mean, again, you can catch their next game tomorrow, the 20th. We said. Oh, tonight. Oh, it is tonight. So tonight, depending if the podcast goes up tonight or tomorrow, it would have been done or is about to see. So you're just going to have to wait and watch how we play against the Bulls, see if they're they're any better. So let's move on to some things that have happened earlier. Like, first time, Lakers versus Atlanta during the weekend.
So Lakers versus Atlanta. This is really when you saw the quote-unquote Showtime Lakers that we used to see back in the 90s. And really, LeBron has stepped up as the leader, and he got a lot of hate in the offseason. Oh, he's old, he's slow, he's not who he used to be. But I think this game versus Atlanta especially, he really stepped up and showed that he can take control of this team. Aside from, the ankle breaker that he got put on.
We won't talk about that. So,
right.
Well, one of the Atlanta players, I don't remember who, just freaking stepped back and just destroyed LeBron in the lane. And
it was pretty gruesome.
Yeah, Kobe was at the game too, so like people are saying that he just up and left, even though he didn't. But
yeah,
it's a pretty funny joke right there, right? But here's the thing now. So we'd say Showtime Lakers for this game specifically because you saw like an air of cockiness in the Lakers. Like if you remember last year with the Warriors where they had this like behind the back pass like from Steph across the court and KD would dunk it. That's like what you were seeing like. Danny Green was dunking for some reason.
Put back.
Yeah, with the putback, and then KCP made a layup unlike last week where he airballed it. So I mean, I think that they're gelling as a team. LeBron again is stepping up more than last year because last year it was like all hope is lost. He wasn't going to make the playoffs, so he wasn't playing as good as he usually can. But now you can see he's actually exerting effort. Him and Anthony Davis are a really good pair.
Absolutely, I think they're going to link up well for the rest of the season. Moving on. Harden and his secret come up with the Rockets. They've been doing very well, but I guess us being based out of the East Coast, or the Midwest, I should say, we don't hear a lot of it. But the Rockets are 10-3 after beating Portland in their last game. And Harden and Russell Westbrook are linking up really well. Russell Westbrook, again, is on his tear of triple-double mania. But what I've noticed throughout the games is they're gelling more as a team. They're not arguing as much. One thing I do want to see is I want to see Westbrook taking a lot better shots. His shot selection's not there. When I say that, I mean he takes a lot of pull-ups. He drives to the hoop. But I think what he has to learn now, going and playing with the Rockets, is they've got pieces around him that he needs to utilize. Whereas at OKC, it was kind of, I don't want to say just himself, but he was,
Yeah,
he was a main piece.
Until Paul George got there and he kind of started running the offense. But
right.
like now with the Rockets, like Westbrook's always been like that, but Harden is running the offense like as he should, and there was many questions in the offseason regarding to who was gonna like handle the ball, who's gonna run the offense. Like these are two like ball dominant guards. But the thing is, the same problem arose when they traded for Chris Paul a couple years ago, and that ended up working. So I guess Houston has a good track record with getting guards, but the only thing we're gonna have to see now is just the offseason because they've been really really good in the actual season.
Absolutely.
And like Harden's come up isn't that secret because the thing is like. I think we're just so used to him putting up monster numbers that we just kind of like lost it aside because now he's dropping like 40 and you don't really hear about it on like all the Instagram pages or whatever because it's like, oh, it's Harden dropped another 40. I mean, and even Westbrook, I don't think I've really seen Westbrook on like House of Highlights or Bleacher Report of late. But I mean, I guess that's where we stand on Houston Rockets. But I mean, moving on to a different team, we got the Celtics, who are top of the league for some reason.
Tear. They're 11-2 at the time of recording this podcast. They really should be 12-1 if Marcus Smart can get his floater to drop. But they've been doing really well. Jason Tatum has stepped up big time. He was always offense heavy forward for the Celtics, but he's really showed up when Kemba can't, and they relied a lot. They put a lot on Kemba this year because it's Kemba Walker. We got him from Charlotte. It's going to be his breakout season. And I don't think he showed up. He's playing great, but for the hype that he received, I think that he could be playing a little better. But that's where their young guys have stepped up, especially Marcus Smart, being such a good defender that he is. He's kind of picked up some of the slack. But I want to talk about Enes Kanter out for a little bit because he's been bouncing around the league a whole lot. And I think that the Celtics don't need him because as of late, Daniel Theis has been on a good little run here. He's got a whole bunch of rebounds in recent games, and they're playing well when he's getting a lot of minutes. So I don't think Enes Kanter should be getting that many minutes personally. What do you think, Pierre?
I mean, Kanter's more of like a traditional big. He shoots mid range, and he plays under the rim. And the Celtics are more of like a shoot heavy team. They shoot a lot of threes, and Daniel Theis is pretty much a sniper from outside. So I think he needs to get more minutes. Kanter needs to just be dealt somewhere where his play style is more suited for, or he should evolve his game because the game is evolving and he needs to start fitting that. But going back to Kemba Walker, I think this experiment where they traded away Kyrie Irving is exactly what the Celtics needed because I think Kyrie Irving was detrimental to the progress of most of the young guys at the Celtics. And as you can see now, like when they traded and they got Kemba Walker, you got someone who's scoring a little less, but he's facilitating a lot more. So now you got a lot of these young players that like you knew were good that are now showing up and like playing a lot better. Like you said, Jason Tatum and Daniel Theis.
Which he's averaging 5 assists a game, which he's obviously distributing the ball a lot better.
And his scoring isn't that much down either. I mean, 23 points a game. It's not like the 29 that Kyrie was giving, but it's still a hit, and he's facilitating a lot more. I mean, Kyrie's personality even probably was detrimental to the Celtics. I mean, ball dominant, cocky. I mean, just look at how he left LeBron. I mean,
he's sneaky cocky. He doesn't show it in his persona, but in his play style and his like elusiveness to the media, I would say.
Yeah.
Sticking with the Eastern Conference, I want to see your take on Milwaukee Bucks, and they're 10-3 right now. Giannis being former MVP, there's a lot on his shoulders, especially with the addition of Kyle Korver to the Bucks. What do you predict for them for the season?
I definitely see them taking the East, really, because it's just like really the Celtics that they have to worry about in the East. The Heat, I mean, are emerging as a better team, but I don't think they're going to be like a dominant force in the offseason just because of they had it's just Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler. You got 2 guards, and then if you're going up against like the Milwaukee Bucks, for instance, or even the Celtics, they've got better bigs and better like play all around that I think the Heat wouldn't survive. But Milwaukee is another team just like Houston where they didn't change that much in the offseason other than a couple of like new additions, but just because we're so used to Giannis putting up monster numbers and monster dunks and whatever, you don't see that everywhere. So it's kind of flying under the radar where Milwaukee's almost near the top where they're just neck and neck with Boston.
Yeah. I think Mark Stein put out power rankings a few days ago, and he listed the Bucks at like 3rd or 4th, which is really good for them. Also, the Toronto Raptors, former NBA champions, they're currently sitting at 4th. They're on a nice little tear with Kyle Lowry really stepping up big time with the loss of Kawhi Leonard. But moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about the Clippers over on the west side, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Paul George dropped 37 in his Clippers debut, where they killed the Hawks by 49 points. And basically, we missed him in the beginning of the season with a shoulder injury, but he's back now. And with the addition of Kawhi Leonard to the Clippers, how do you think that's going to play out this season?
Well, I mean, I think the Clippers, it's been expected. I mean, the hype was there. Paul George comes in, he drops 37. That's not really, like, he's been working for a while. His injury hasn't really held him back. It's more like a minor thing. It's not like a major injury.
Right.
So he comes on, drops 37. It's expected. I mean, he was doing that on the Thunder with Russell Westbrook holding the ball. So, I mean...
Absolutely.
I think the Clippers are definitely going to go far. They're definitely title contenders. Their defense could be stifling, which is a little surprising in this instance because they let the Hawks drop 101 points. Even if it was a blowout, like their defense, I think, had a little bit of holes, and I think that's just going to come with chemistry. I think by the postseason, I don't see any team scoring more than like 85 on them, really.
Yeah, especially what you were talking about over the summer, the hype, especially with the two LA teams being stacked in the West, the Lakers and the Clippers. Everybody expected the Clippers to, take off, which they've been pretty good this season. But the Lakers have been unstoppable, to say the least. And I think that's because the Clippers haven't had Paul George, and then they've been missing games with Kawhi Leonard. I'm going to talk a little about that. Kawhi Leonard been sitting out for game management, which personally I don't like.
That's stupid.
Go ahead.
I mean, he's getting paid millions and millions of dollars to play basketball, but then he's getting paid millions and millions of dollars to sit around because of load management.
Right.
It would make sense later in the season, but like we're still in like the first, not even eighth of the season, so I don't understand why he's sitting out for load management.
Absolutely. And I think 3 of the games that he sat out, the Clippers lost. So you can fact check me on that. But the Clippers lost, and that's big. That'll help playoff time with seeding. So if he's sitting out in games that he's losing now, later on down the season, I think that could hurt the Clippers big time.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So, I mean, from the top of the West, let's move on to the bottom of the West.
The very bottom.
We got Golden State Warriors who, I mean, not too long ago were at the top staring at a dynasty. And then everybody leaves their team, and now we've got a team that's dealing with a ton of injuries and riddled with young, opportunistic players. Let's just say that.
Yeah, Clay's out. Curry hurt his hand early on in the season. D'Angelo Russell, he's out for another 2 weeks with a wrist injury and a sprained ankle since the start of the season. And so it's really the start of the fall of a dynasty, which you really hate to see, especially because that's kind of what we grew up on, Golden State being the best. But I think later on in the season they'll bounce back, especially with their new core getting so many minutes. With Eric Pascal getting 30 minutes a game, he's averaging 15 points. And the young stars are really breaking out. Like, not breaking out in the sense that they're doing what the Lakers are doing, but they're showing up more. Like Kai Bowman, they're bringing him up from the G League. He's a good guard. And Jordan Poole is getting 27 minutes a game, which is huge. But the main thing I want to take away from the Golden State Warriors is how much Draymond has had to step up, because he shared the responsibility when Clay, KD, Steph, they were all there, especially with their veterans. But that you kind of take a step back and you see Draymond emerging as a leader, especially he's bringing the ball up more. What's your take on that?
On Draymond, I mean he's becoming a floor general, but like he was never that good to start with.
Yeah.
He's a good piece. He's a cog in a machine. So without him in the Golden State dynasty, I think it wouldn't have worked. But on his own, he's not a good scorer. He's a decent passer, but his playmaking isn't really there. So he's a good cog in the machine. But like as you can see now, when it's just Draymond and a bunch of young guys, they're last in the West right now. So,
yeah, 3-12.
Yeah, I don't see him being like the star that everyone like. His only All-Stars is next to Clay and Curry. That's why he's there. His Defensive Player of the Year is always in combination with his other team, with the rest of the team. So I feel that Draymond Green isn't really the floor general, but he is stepping up a little bit more just to like be there for these young guys.
Absolutely. And one last thing we want to talk about before we close this one out is Carmelo and his debut. He played last night on November 19th against the Pelicans, which surprisingly he started. To finish out the game, he had 10 points on 4-14 shooting. So not completely efficient, but for his first game back since last year, I don't think he did that bad. Played 24 minutes. What's your take on his debut?
I mean, it was decent. It's not what we expected, but I mean, he's been out of the league for a year and a half. Everybody. I mean, everybody has been like begging for him to get on a team. As soon as he got on Portland, everyone was like praising God, because this guy. I mean, he works hard. He definitely deserves a place on the team.
Absolutely.
But his inefficient shooting that we just saw that illustrates why no teams really wanted him, because he's been showing this for the past 4 or 5 years. When he gets on the court, he's shooting maybe 20-30%, which really isn't good and can be detrimental with his shot selection. It's just like a Russell Westbrook kind of thing, but he doesn't have the playmaking of Russell Westbrook or the slashing. Mm-hmm. So that's why he kind of gets lost in the wave when. And
that's been a big problem for Carmelo pretty much all of his career. he's wanted to be that guy who puts the team on his back. But I think in this day and age, he's a little too slow and he's a little too one-dimensional, if you will. He's a spot-up shooter, and you saw him try and back down Jackson Hayes, for example, yesterday, and countless times he went into the paint and he got blocked by these big guys. And again, you got to remember it's just one game, and we hope to see him back and doing well because he's a future Hall of Famer. We just got to see how the rest of the season plays out, especially with him taking the spot of Alfred Aminu from Portland. So we got to see how he meshes with the rest of the Portland team. I mean, he's only been on the roster for a few days now, or I think about a week. But that'll do it for this podcast of UnBAIS.
The UnBAIS podcast. Make sure to check in next week or in 2 weeks. We don't have a schedule yet, but it has been fun.
Absolutely.
Enjoy this footage of us playing basketball. Bye.